confirmation hearing on the appointment of Mr. Anthony Lamorena as Director, Department of Corrections is hereby convened, sponsored by the Committee on Guam U.S. Military Relocation, Public Safety, and Judiciary. For information of the general public, the initial notification was forwarded to our stakeholders as well as to our media partners on the 20th of July, and then the second notification was forwarded out to the community also on the 27th of July. This afternoon's agenda has one particular item, and it was mentioned earlier, so if I can invite Mr. Tony Lamorena to please join us in the front. Sorry, Tony. Okay, let me start off with the others who may want to testify. I know that you all signed in, and I want to thank everyone who are in attendance for signing in, at least signifying whether in fact you're here in support or if you have another position with regards to the appointment. Mr. Jeffrey Limo, if you are going to be providing testimony, then I would like to invite you to the front. May Kirigua, Annette Tepahago, Anthony Lamorena, Faye Sanchez, Alan Borja, and Pascual Aguon. If I can invite any of you who are going to be providing oral testimony this evening, I would like to invite you to the front as I highlight your name. Jeffrey Limo, May Kirigua, Annette Pahago, Tony Lamorena or Anthony Lamorena, Faye Sanchez, Alan Borja, and Pascual Aguon. We still have a couple of empty seats, so I'm going to continue the list. Mr. Anton Aguon, Joe San Agustin, and Dr. Patricia Timing Lu. So like I shared with you, if any of you are going to be providing oral testimony this evening, I would like to invite you to the front. I'd like to also, before we recognize any of you to provide your testimony on the appointment of Mr. Tony Alberto A. Lamorena V as the Director of Department of Corrections, I'd like to recognize my colleague and member of the committee, Senator Tommy Morrison. Thank you, Senator Morrison, for joining us this evening. And we will start from your far left, and only because, so if you can just identify yourself for the record, please, and then proceed with your testimony on the appointment.
Lieutenant Jeff Limo, Department of Corrections Internal Affairs Supervisor. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Senator Tommy Morrison. It's my pleasure to sit before you to endorse Tony Lamorena to be the Director of Corrections. Tony's been there approximately about a month and a half now, and after sitting with Mr. Lamorena and conversing about what he has plans for DOC in the next 2 years that he has up there, he has a very interesting vision. Again, 2 years, Tony has a lot to work with the upcoming consent decree. The Department of Corrections, he has a good vision on that. He's faced with the new 43 recruits now that we're hiring, and he's on board to help alleviate some of the overtime at the Department of Corrections. He's very clear with that. What Tony is in a month and a half has done here, as he really established the command staff to, one, give the chain of command back to its operations, which is the adult correctional facility. And having said that, now Tony's concentrating merely on the admin part of Department of Corrections, which was, for the longest time, one of our hardest tasks up at DOC. The talks is, Tony comes from a dynamic administrator around Guam. He served as GVB, CAHA, and then now Department of Corrections. So I ask you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Tom Morrison, that we give Mr. Lamorena an opportunity. Again, he's going to be my ninth director, and I have confidence that he'll carry out the mission. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Limo. I notice you're counting. Ninth director. Okay. Mr. Lamorena, the sixth?
Anthony Lamorena, just private citizen. Hafa-Adai Senators, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for a chance to speak in support of a great man to be the director of the Department of Corrections. The people of Guam know Tony Lamorena is a former senator, former Guam Visitors Bureau General Manager, former director of Bureau of Statistics and Plans, and as a former director of the Guam Civil Service Commission, to name a few. But many others know him more personally as uncle, brother, cousin, dad, and friend. He has the experience to effectively head one of the largest agencies on the island and has the strong leadership qualities that we need at the Department of Corrections at this time. Tony Lamorena has amassed a lot of accomplishments throughout his professional and political career. And I'm not talking about the long list of titles I've previously stated. Titles are not accomplishments, they are titles. But what my dad has been able to do in those offices with those titles yields real accomplishments. As a senator, he chaired the Tourism Committee, which at the time faced the effects of the Korean Airlines airplane crash. As general manager of Guam Visitors Bureau during the devastating SARS epidemic that devastated our island's largest industry, tourism, he led the efforts to bring back tourists that we lost during that time and retain our strongest markets. As Director of Bureau of Statistics and Plans, he oversaw the success of the 2010 census while also working closely with the planning of the military buildup here on Guam. As Director of Civil Service Commission, he remained an impartial agency head that upheld and worked to reform a system that protects government of Guam employees. Tony Lamorena knows what it takes to lead, especially during difficult circumstances. These are the qualities that we should always strive to look for in the people that lead our island, and especially those that lead such large agencies. The Department of Corrections is never an easy task for anyone that leads it, but it is up to you, the members of the Guam legislature, to approve nominees that are the best fit for the job at hand. Leadership and experience matter, and accomplishments matter as well. We need someone that knows how to get things done. My dad has always strived to do the best job he can do, no matter where he goes. And I believe the Department of Corrections is in need of a leader that will always do their best every day. Today I come to you as a son that knows the true character of a man who we are discussing today, a son that knows the sacrifice my dad has given to public service. Tony Lamorena is a man who will always do what is right, even when it is not popular. Those aren't just words, those words can be seen in his record as a leader. As a leader, he has proven he can work together with anyone, no matter political or personal background. This is a time for strong leadership, and this is why this is the best time for my dad, Tony Lamorena, to be Department of Corrections Director. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and wish all the members of the 33rd Guam Legislature a warm Sujusmasi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamorena. Mr. Sonoxy?
Mr. Chair, Senator Morrison, good afternoon, and I thank you for the opportunity here this afternoon to speak in support of Tony Lamorena's confirmation as the next director for the Department of Correction. My name is Joe San Augustine, and I'm the prior director for the Department of Corrections. I know Tony for probably 6 years, and I knew Tony as he was the administrator for the Civil Service Commission. I have high regards and high respect for Tony. He's been in government for a long time. Tony understands policy. Tony understands government. And there's not much more that I could speak of. Someone taking the helm as a director for the Department of Correction, but Tony. He's got a vision. He's got the compassion. He's got the knowledge. And he's got the heart to lead the men and women at the Department of Correction. This afternoon, I'm here to ask you all to please consider and confirm this individual as one of the highly most qualified individuals to take over the Department of Correction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sonoxy. Senator Morrison, any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment and thank Mr. Anthony Lamorena Jr. For sharing his kind words on behalf of his father. I know those words are so sincere, and everything I know you put in there were a direct experience, because everywhere your father went, you were right next to him. And I appreciate that you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Morrison. We do have, gentlemen, thank you. You're dismissed. We do have a few other individuals who have signed in, and if by any chance you're going to provide testimony, oral testimony, you're more than welcome to join us up front. We have Julius Tano and Rebecca. Someone in the audience? It must be. Rebecca Conception. If either of you are going to be providing oral testimony, then you're more than welcome to join us up front. No? Okay. Mr. Lamorena, Senator, please identify yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Alberto Tony Lamorena V. Senator Aguon, Chairman of the Committee on U.S. Military Relocation, Public Safety and Judiciary, Senator Tommy Morrison, and the other members of the committee. Many of you know me. I've served in the government for over 30 years in various capacities, and every government agency is a challenge. Every government agency is unique. And the Department of Corrections is, in fact, one of those very unique organizations. I want to thank the governor and lieutenant governor for appointing me to be the director of corrections. And I'll be honest with you, when they first tapped me, in my mind, I was the general manager for GVB and Bureau of Statistics Plans, which Senator Morrison was also director of, and various other agencies. And DOC was definitely a challenge. A paramilitary organization was very different from what I've normally managed in the past. But I tell you, after 4 weeks of working at the Department of Corrections, I love it. And I am proud to be the director of the Department of Corrections and serving under these fine men and women who are behind me. They are, in fact, true professionals. And I applaud them. Every day, my wife says, "So how's work?" I said, "I love it. I wake up every morning looking forward to go to work." Because it's a challenge. And it makes it so much easier when you have professionals such as these fine people behind me to back you up. What we face at the Department of Corrections, obviously, is a staffing shortage. We want to thank the legislature. We're currently processing 43 individuals. I believe we're just almost concluding the polygraph tests, and we'll be doing the psych examinations shortly, and hopefully try to get these individuals on board so that we can begin to relieve some of the undue stress on our current personnel. Being short-staffed makes it very difficult for our staff to take the necessary time off. We've also established a committee that is going to look at reestablishing or reorganizing our schedules so it gives more opportunity for our officers to have time off and spend quality time with their families. Of course, in the same token, we're going to be cutting down on overtime. This year alone, we're hitting almost $3 million in overtime. Our projection for next year is to stay within budget of a little over $1 million. And so it's going to take dedication and hard work from everyone within the organization. One of the things that I was really tremendously impressed with on my first day, first of all, my first week was to talk about baptism under fire. On my second day, Judge Tidinko Gatewood, we had an inspection of DOC because of our dissent decree. And then I went to court that afternoon. And then the following, I think Tuesday, we had our budget hearing, which, was a budget that I didn't put together, so I was not as familiar with it, as I should have been. But I trusted the prior director and the staff to ensure that all the necessary expenses and needs were covered for next year. And I applaud former Director San Agustin for his leadership, and likewise with the Deputy Director and the entire staff. Because really, an organization functions not because of one individual. I've always believed in my years of service in the government of Guam is that a true leader leads an organization that can function without the leader. If I, as a manager of any organization, left that organization tomorrow and that organization can function without me, then I've done my job. If an organization needs a leader in order to function because it needs constant direction, then obviously that manager was a micromanager. And that I'm not. I allow people to do their jobs. That's what we pay them for. I am there to support them, to see what they need, and to assist in any way I can. So DOC is quite unique, and and I apologize, I don't have a written statement, but my schedule's been really busy, and I really haven't had time to sit down and really write something. And Senator, trust me, I will, and I will prepare that for you and get it to you. But as we move forward in the Department of Corrections, and I'd like to offer the senators a tour of the facility. The staff has done a tremendous job with the facility. It's old. It was intended for about 300 inmates. Currently we have, including detainees, over 700. But it's clean. It's functional. When I was a senator in the 90s and I took a tour of the Department of Corrections, what you see today is just night and day. I mean, you can literally eat off the floor at the Department of Corrections. I mean, you don't want to, but you literally could. And a lot of it is because of the dedication of the staff at the Department of Corrections. And I may seem like I'm constantly applauding them for their work. It's because they deserve it. And the more and more, and every day I continue to work there, I understand more and more. I am their student at this point in time. They are teaching me what DOC is all about. And one of the things I think that we have a tendency of forgetting what DOC is. Everyone, I remember during the budget hearing, our budget hearing a couple of weeks ago, and the senators were strictly asking me questions in relation to incarceration. But we also need to remember that using the holistic approach, we're also a correctional facility. It's our responsibility to ensure that we provide the necessary skills and training to individuals so that when they leave our facility, they don't come back. Our recidivism rate is 68%. That means 68% of the people that leave our facility come back. When I was at the Visitors Bureau back in 2003, our return visitor rate was 35%. I will come to the legislature asking for more money so we can increase that visitor return rate. Well, I'm coming to you so we can decrease it. We don't want to see individuals come back. We want to be able to provide the necessary skills to these individuals so that when they're released, they can make a living outside the walls of the Department of Corrections. The former director and a lot of the staff set a very good foundation. They've set the foundation with the Guam Trades Academy. As a matter of fact, I met with them today, including the Department of Labor. And they've been able to train individuals who are certified to teach the core skills within DOC. So we're going to continue that program. I've met also with Dr. Robert Underwood to see what we can do to collaborate, and then I'll be meeting with GCC and other industry partners to see what we can collaborate in establishing training programs within the facility that will give them a certification. It's hard enough for an individual to have that cloud over their head that they're an ex-con. But if they leave our facility with a certification that they're skilled in a certain skilled labor, it gives them more opportunity to succeed in life. And I think that's our goal. Our goal is not just to incarcerate, but our goal is also to create the environment necessary so that we can lower that recidivism rate. I mean, that's our primary function. And I think the dedication of men and women, the folks in social work, and we have Dr. Timing Lu here. I mean, these are individuals who are dedicated to their work, and we're going to try our best in the next 2.5 years to establish programs that will eventually reduce the number of individuals that return back into the system, and hopefully we can feature more of the successes rather than the failures. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamorena. Just a couple of items that I know that you touched on in terms of overtime. Right now you're tracking approximately $3 million in
Correct.
overtime, and you anticipate that in a matter of 2 months, 3 months, you're going to start trimming that significantly down to incur an obligation of about $1 million over the subsequent 12 months.
Yeah, we are going to try our best, Senator.
That's very ambitious.
Yes,
but
it is.
I don't know if you've had any of you people really crunch the numbers in terms of what the anticipated overtime will be. And I say this because 3 years ago you accumulated, if my numbers serve me right in terms of looking at your oversight hearing and the documents, you accumulated about $1.8 million.
Right.
Prior to this fiscal year, last fiscal year, you accumulated $2.3 million
Right.
in overtime. Now you're tracking $3 million. You're trying to close the loop in processing 43 recruits to bring them on, but even with that, the requirement in terms of the overall
Right.
training to get them ready and suited so that in fact they can serve in any capacity within the confines of the Department of Corrections and assure the public that their safety is continuing to be, it's being provided. That training timeline is anywhere from 6 to plus months, 6 months to a year. So I think it's very ambitious that you are making a public pronouncement of reducing the overtime to $1 million when in actuality those are factors that really have to be considered. And that doesn't even take into consideration the attrition rate of your
Right.
personnel.
That's true.
In terms of just over the course of the last 2 years, you've had double-digit attrition rates in terms of uniformed personnel. So there are challenges Department of Corrections has. And I bring this up because I recognize that overtime at the Department of Corrections is a necessary factor. It's how can we work towards making sure that we can keep that to a minimum so that we don't overwork our personnel. We give them the opportunity to be able to spend time with their families, and that we allow for other individuals to be able to assume that additional responsibility by virtue of bringing additional officers, correctional officers into the system. The other issue that I want to bring to your attention, and I'd like to see if I can get some thoughts from you in terms of prior year obligations, because I know that there are a few items that remain pending in terms of addressing prior year obligations. And what are your thoughts in regards to trying to close the loop on that and making sure that your personnel are compensated for anything that's outstanding?
Of course, Senator, I know you introduced legislation and the public hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, and we'll be there to support your legislation. Any opportunity for us to be given the authority to pay our past due debt would help us tremendously. Again, the bill doesn't appropriate additional money, but to work within our existing budget. So, again, we're going to have to get very creative. In regards to cutting down on overtime, again, with the staff, we'll be meeting, and we'll be devising new scheduling alternatives so that we can see what we can do to, in fact, cut back on overtime, but also allow our officers more time off and more quality time with their families. So we're looking at various schematics at this point in time, and then hopefully we can come up with some workable solutions by the time our 43 new recruits come on board. So, but in regards to our prior year obligations, of course, we'd like to bury that debt. These are obligations that we do owe, but we have been unable to pay them because we don't have the proper authorization based upon the current budget allocations to spend current appropriations for prior debts. So by allowing us that opportunity, it gives us at least the opportunity to see where we can move money around so we can pay off some of these existing debt.
I'm pleased to hear that certainly that's an issue that you want to try to get off your books in terms of carrying over prior year obligations. I know you mentioned about the recidivism rate and trying to ensure that these individuals who exit your doors at Department of Corrections do not return. And I think that that's certainly an area that we as a community, and in particular Department of Corrections, really has to focus on in terms of ensure that these individuals who exit the Department of Corrections look at that facility as correctional in nature and rehabilitative in nature, so that eventually they can have a decent lifestyle outside of that particular facility. The other aspect is with detention. There are various programs that are being utilized nationwide, and I know that Department of Corrections has to coordinate this with the Judiciary of Guam, because programs such as the anklet bracelet is one component. I know there are other efforts where individuals who are initially brought in and otherwise would be detained under the existing structure, they would be given leniency and perhaps be detained at their respective homes. So, there are different programs that the Judiciary of Guam is working very actively on trying to implement so that we can reduce the number of detainees over at Department of Corrections. So I hope that you look at that program and you work collaboratively with them so that we can at least try to bring down your population.
Just to let you know, Senator, the courts are working with our staff, and they're doing what they call the ORAS, the Ohio Risk Assessment Survey, and primarily we have our detainee population is as great as our inmate population. So the courts are trying to do as much as they can to conduct the ORAS and all the detainees, and then go back to the judges that detained them and to review and possibly release some of these detainees. So we're working very closely with the courts, and hopefully that can happen very soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you take a look at your work employment background and whatnot. I think your son highlighted it very, very well. Having served as Civil Service Commission, having served as CAHA, Guam Visitors Bureau, and then in some of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. So the administration expertise that you bring to the Department of Corrections is without question, without any doubt. I think you bring that expertise, you bring that knowledge in terms of how to work within the system so that in fact you can get things accomplished regardless as to where you're at. So you bring that skill to the table in terms of this new responsibility. The added component is obviously you always have an appreciation of where you've come from, and you sat on this side of the table and you understand exactly what the process is and how to go about being able to acquire resources or authorization or get some additional tools from the legislative body. So you also bring that, and I certainly wish you the best of luck. There's one thing that I want to close with, and you highlighted it in your opening statement, and that's the professional staff and personnel that you have in your department. To this very day, they continue, at least from under my oversight, they have really done an outstanding job in terms of making sure that they try to work within the system and keep our people safe outside the confines of Department of Corrections. So to those men and women in uniform and also some of the civilian employees who work there, I thank them really for the work that they do, and I appreciate you recognizing them also. So please, let's continue to work together.
Sure.
In this particular situation, let's do the best we possibly can in ensuring that these inmates and these detainees are properly confined, and that we also look at ways in which we can help support them.
And Senator, you know me, I'm not shy. When we come up for our initiatives and we need legislation done, you know, I'll come forward and ask for your assistance.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Morrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank all those who provided testimony here, former director and the staff of DOC and the rest of the DOC team that are here to support you, Mr. Lamorena. First off, I have a lot of high regard for you, Mr. Lamorena. I of course, had tough shoes to fill after you at the Bureau of Stats and Plans, and I know that firsthand, reading the reports there and some of the challenges you took on, even as chairing one of, I believe, one of the biggest, largest task force, the civilian task force, military task force that guided and developed documents that will help guide policymakers or decision makers going forward. So I appreciate that and all the work you've done there as well, having firsthand. And of course, the staff sometimes missed you more than me, so so it tells me a lot. But I thank you for the invitation to visit the area. The former director did invite us in the past up there. I've been up there, I think, twice, and I have firsthand experience of the challenges there, and of course, a lot of the progress that's been made there by the team there. I would love to come up there and see where things are at today and how we can definitely working with the chairman and how we support DOC going forward. And I know in the last go-around we did discuss, again, bringing to light the discussions of how looking at the landmass, the area there, and how much ground officers have to cover. And I'm sure these folks definitely know their jobs well, but looking at opportunities on the road and planning for growth or development or bringing more efficient structures to the area that would be able to handle and accommodate these changing times. And of course, what's out there in the industry that are best practice or models that showcase clearly how this industry can be managed well. So I know we had some discussions about that, and I hope we could revive that discussion because I think it's very clean. There was a lot of momentum with those discussions. I just don't, and a lot of input provided by the DOC team and staff that were providing input on what could work there, what not could work there. But I want to learn from how things could work with models that are out here within Guam, and of course, looking down the road, developing, I guess, a master plan. I seem to bring that up a lot, but I think we do need to do things according to planning. Of course, as the former director of Bureau of Stats and Plans, you know that full well. So I'm humbled to say I support you fully.
Thank you, Senator. Just to let you know, too, that, again, prior, I'm not going to take all the credit because I just got there, but prior management and existing staff were able to get a DOI grant for $250,000 for the purposes of doing an assessment and a master plan for DOC. So we're working on putting together the specs for the RFP and then hopefully put that out so that we can have a plan that we can actually put into place so that we can have a goal into the future for DOC.
Thank you very much, Senator Morrison and Mr. Lamorena. I just want to close with this. First and foremost, thank you for taking on the charge that the governor has extended to you in terms of serving in this capacity, because it's always been one of the agencies that continues to experience challenges, and we certainly hope that over the course of the next couple of years that we'll be able to work together to get you the resources and additional personnel. I want to also thank Mr. Lamorena for allowing you to serve in this capacity, because it's very similar to your previous jobs. This one may be even more time consuming and require some additional commitment because it's regarding the safety of our people. The other jobs have their respective responsibilities in terms of supporting the community, but this one is going to continue to be a challenge within our community, whether it's the facilities, whether it's additional personnel. So I thank Mrs. Lamorena for allowing you to be able to serve in this capacity. And then let me close by saying this. You know, you have a fine young man that you've trained very, very well. So I anticipate that in the future he would also be participating in the political arena. So I want to commend you and your wife for training him very, very well.
We'll discuss that when the time comes.
Yes. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. And
Thank you very much.
we'll report out your committee report.